What's up everybody, Yellowdot here, and today we are going over my review for the network test more or less. My opinions, things that should be changed, things that are good, things that are bad, things that I feel neutral about. But before we start, I want to give it a quick disclaimer. I don't speak any Japanese, so if I get anything wrong, I apologize. And keep in mind that things are subject to change because this was the network test of course, so things will likely be changed in the full version. And with that being said, let's start getting into it. Now, one of the things I do like is that you can do infinite the grinding slash dungeon running. You know, you can farm mobs, you can farm the dungeons as many times as you want because you don't have to pay any stamina unless you would like to receive double rewards. There's as well, those are as well good ways to obtain EXP, of course. And then, of course, you have your rush battles that you will unlock later down the line. That's one of the best ways that we know up to now, just in the network test for receiving EXP. That's what people ended up leveling really fast from what I know as well. Now there are many settings in the game, which is a good thing. You know, you can change the HUD to how you please it. You can, show your FPS. You can adjust your graphic settings to what you feel comfortable with. You can turn down the amount of people in the area. Now, this may not seem like much, but as someone with a PC that is not as good, being able to adjust the settings, turning down the people is very ideal, considering that when you are in the town, there is up to 200 people at the same time, which you can turn down in the settings to as few as 5 minimum, and then up to 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, or even the unlimited amount, which would be considered to be 200 at this stage of the game. And with that being said, you can also limit the amount of FPS you play on if you want to. Once again, as someone with not a high-end PC, I ended up turning them down to be capped at 60, but you can cap them at 30, 60, 120 FPS, or you can go for unlimited. Another thing I do like about the game is that all classes are on one character. Now let's think a bit about PSO2/PSO2 New Genesis. So you can change to any class you want at any time, basically as long as you are in the town. So you'd have to go to the town, just change your weapon, and then get back out there. One thing I would like to see change for that is if they allow us to change our classes outside in the open world, but let's say at specific the campfires that are in the overworld. Now if you could change our classes there, we could also change our classes in the overworld, which would be a really nice thing to have added. Now, one of the things, of course, that everybody did dislike about the NT, well, let's not say everybody, that most people disliked was the drop rate. It was really bad considering in the NT it was supposed to be boosted as well. It was not even noticeable that it was boosted, if I'm honest, but the devs have already touched upon this and are working on an improvement for the full release, so I'm looking forward to these changes, since they were definitely needed. Of course, the gathering is another thing that was not that good in the network test. I ended up having to hunt for over an hour for a certain ore, which of course, the drop rate once again was very bad. Gathering apparently overall was not the greatest, specifically for mushrooms supposedly, which I did not notice, but other players have. But once again, the devs have touched upon this and are working on a fix as well. Now, I would like to point out there were no icon for party members on the map. So let's say you are in a party and you are playing, with a group of people, like your 5 friends or something. And you would go ahead and open your map. You're like, okay, where are my friends at? Let me go meet up with them or something. And you would not be able to know where they are at all. So hopefully that is something they do add, because that seems like one of the things you should be having in the game, more or less. Now, the thing that you could do is everyone can teleport to the party leader, but once again, it would just be such a nice quality of life thing to have to just see them on the map. I feel like it would be a very useful thing to have. Now I'm gonna go over some things that I feel rather neutral about. Some people feel like it's necessary for a change, some people don't. So I would like to hear your opinions on these following topics. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the loading zones. So when you play the game in the overworld or outside of town rather, not in the town, you will see the yellow stripes on your map basically as you are walking around, which indicates you going into the next zone. Crossing this border just will take you to the next zone. Now, personally, I do not mind this, but you know, as I said, a lot of people have been talking about this. I think the loading zones are a fine thing to have personally because it means the game will run more smoothly overall, considering it transfers you to a different instance. The loading time from one zone to another was about 5 seconds for me when I played. Once again, I don't have a high-end PC, so considering it was that short, it really was not that bothersome for me. Now, some people think that this should be removed entirely and basically have a seamless quote-unquote transfer to the next zone. Kind of like, let's say, PSO2 New Genesis had those zones, you know, where you would go in a different zone, you'd load in instantly. But one thing I did notice from when I was playing PSO2 New Genesis, and they did have that, is there would be a bunch of stuttering for me / lag when you would load into the next zone. So it wasn't really as seamless as it seems. Now, you were able to move around in that area as soon as you got into it, but you know, it's like everything had to load in still. Therefore, I personally prefer loading zones, which I know will basically make the game run more smoothly overall. What is your opinion of this? If you have any opinion, you know, you can let me know down in the comments. Now, the next thing that I would like to cover is the trading and the marketplace. You know, there is no trading and or marketplace in this game. Currently in the game, which once again, personally, I don't mind this. You know, I kind of like grinding and everything, but I do understand people wanting to help out their friends. So let's say, you know, you have a friend just starting out in the game, and you're like, okay, I want to help my friend get this certain Imagine that I have a dupe of. So let me just go ahead and give him this dupe that I have, you know? Which, honestly, that makes sense, you know, wanting to help friends out. But what you could do instead is, like, help your friend farm for the materials by having him tag the enemy and then you kill them, as example. But, of course, not a lot of people are about that. They would just prefer to give the dupe that they already have, which, you know, makes sense. The way that I would not mind it is, let's say you can trade Imagine for Imagine. So let's say you have both have a B-Imagine, like both of like level 10, and they're both dupes for each player, so you could like trade them to each other that way. That way you would only be able to trade items to each other rather than, you know, money or anything of the sort. But what do you think? Do you guys think that there should be a marketplace and or trading at all in the game? You guys can let me know. I think personally I would be okay with it if you could only trade item for item, as example, like I mentioned, rather than having gold being involved. Because when you get gold involved, that's when there's gonna be bots. And that's the thing, you know, we're trying to avoid, which is probably why trading isn't there in the first place at the moment. Now we're gonna talk about PvP. Now in the network test there was no PvP that I am aware of currently. I don't know if there are plans for PvP at all. I don't think there are. But some people would like to see PvP being added, which of course I don't really, you know, I'm neutral with that. I don't mind if it's added, but I don't mind if it's not added. Personally, I'm more of a PvE gamer, so it's not gonna really affect me. I'm just not gonna touch the PvP even if it is added. So if they would add PvP, they'd probably make it like 3v3 rather than a 1v1, I would imagine. But I really don't know if it would be added at all. It would be an interesting thought to have it added. Like, you could have, like, you know, certain arena rewards or something small, like an X amount of gold, or maybe a mount of a sword, you know, something that will make players incentivized to want to play it, but nothing major that it like ruins the game for the people that don't play PvP, you know. In that way, I would not mind it. Now another thing that I'm in between about is the player count on the map. Now the town Player count is up to 200, which outside of town in every map it's up to 30 at this current moment in the network test that we played. Now I don't think this is a bad thing, considering the game will run a lot smoother with like 30 outside of town. But 200 in the town, you know, it's kind of laggy for me personally. I do not mind the 200 in town though. I feel like that's a good amount overall to have in the town, so people can like chat to each other. It's like, you know, the general consensus where people are just gonna hang out in the town end game and just talk to each other, you know? Let them have some fun end game, why not? But I think my point here is I think outside of the town, for the bigger maps especially, they should change it up to like, let's say 50 for the bigger maps. So let's say you have your starting areas, your, you know, your first zone, like the level 1 to 3 zone, and then level 5 to like 7 zone or something. Like those can stay at 30, sure, but as we get down to the bigger maps, like the level 16-ish, level 20 plus, I feel like at that point, those maps are a lot bigger than the starting maps, and those could have 50 players in them. That way you have more like player activity overall in the maps. But from when I played, overall the experience was quite good. There were always players that I could see around. So let's say I'd go to the level 16 map and like gather mushrooms as an example. There would always at least be like 2 other people gathering mushrooms, and you'd run across some people killing mobs, you know? But I feel like 50 would be better for the bigger areas, especially as we get down to harder elites, you know, like the mini world bosses. Those guys basically become harder, you know, because they're higher level, so killing them with more players would be quite nice as well. What do you guys think of this? Do you guys think they should increase it to 50 for the bigger maps, or just keep it at 30? Personally, I'd like to see it increase to 50 and see if they would work with that. See how it would affect things, you know? With that being said, those are basically all the things that I wanted to touch upon in this video. I really enjoyed the network test overall. There's some things, you know, that we know are gonna change, like the gathering, the farming, you know? And they're also gonna work on the adventure board as well as some other things. So that is all I have here for you for now. If you have anything related to what I said, you know, if I said anything wrong, you can let me know. If you want to let me know your opinion on anything I said, you know, can let me know down in the comments, and that's about it. You can follow me on twitch.tv/yellow. I stream every day. I'm currently mostly editing Blue Protocol videos on there while getting ready for the game to release. And I will see you guys in the next video. Later.